It's NFL Week 11. And we're talking secrets of winning the DraftKings Millie Maker with Burns, the Shark Lab himself, author of Secrets of the DraftKings Millie Maker, winning the $1 Million Game, available on Amazon. And Burns, I want to get right into this one. And today I want to open up the show with just looking at the results database and the lineup that won it all. But I have to say, there was a Burns sweat in the Millie Maker until Dak went crazy. We were all going nuts. You were in 5th place at one point and climbing with Keenan Allen.
Actually, I was in 2nd place. I was 5.1 points behind, and it was at halftime. And Keenan Allen had already blew up for like 27 plus DK points.
Oh, this is so painful.
And I knew going into the second half that Keenan Allen was going to he was going to either get 5 catches, 50, 60 more yards, or he was going to get a touchdown or something. Well, he gets the freaking touchdown. He gets more catches. He gets more yardage. He ends up with 47.3 points on the day. So I was in 2nd, and I was like, man, I can win this sucker. And then all of a sudden this bullshit happens, but I don't know. I can't say anything bad about it. But
so of course what Burns is referring to, and everybody knows who experienced last week, was the going nuclear that was what happened with Dak Prescott against the Giants. And what made it so unusual, we see these explosion games from quarterbacks, especially quarterback wide receivers, but most of the time it happens in a back and forth competitive affair, right? Both teams are doing it. All of a sudden, like Mahomes is there, he falls out, he's behind a little bit, he's got to come back. Then the other team scores, and it becomes this shootout situation where they're just pushing the pass, and they got to throw it, and they got to catch up, and then the other team, and a lot of scoring happens in the fourth quarter, and all that good stuff. That's how NFL games go. We've all watched games. This isn't our first rodeo. This was different because it was a non-competitive game. Dallas just kept throwing touchdowns, going nuts, and putting up points. Yep. And the end result was, and this was pain in of course in the Discord as we were rooting this on, and I'm like, oh shit, in the second half when things were exploding for Dak, we're like, oh shit, here we go. And of course, so let's just pull it up here. Ad Rock Bucks. This is yeah. So that lineup for you ended up falling to 165th place, which is just pain when you're sitting in 2nd place in the Millie Maker at halftime, and it's just pain.
Yeah,
wait, hold on. Let me do the pain face. I wish I had it.
Yeah, the pain face was my wife saying, you've gone extremely quiet lately.
Were you?
And I was like, I don't want to talk about it. I just don't want to talk about it because I know what's going to happen.
Pain.
And I was like, Keenan Allen got the touchdown. But at that point, it didn't even matter. I mean, it was like a full onslaught of Dallas with Dak going to CeeDee Lamb. And then, here comes Brandon Cooks, who has done nothing all year. And then it's like, hey, how you doing? But if anybody has ever gone from seeing, and it happens every week, don't get me wrong, guys, it does. But that's how close I was to $1 million takedown.
That's how it goes. Just a quick observation about your lineup. Ooh, I'm in the wrong place. A quick observation about your lineup here. A little triple stack.
That's right.
Did you purposefully create a triple stack?
So this was not what. Typically, I generate lineups with our optimizer with DFS Army, and then I do hand builds in addition, and I enter them in.
This looks like an optimizer lineup to me.
This was an optimizer lineup. It was generated with the DFS Army optimizer.
And the Sim Boost?
Sim Boost, yep.
Yes.
But I was very high on Najee Harris going into the week lineup lock. He produced. He didn't produce as well as I was hoping because Jaylen Warren ate into that with a touchdown of his own and yardage of his own. But those two guys put up 40 points between the two of them in a running back situation. But it was just a good spot for them. Cincinnati was in a competent spot here against Houston.
Mhm.
We
Absolutely.
knew Jamar Chase had back issues going into the game, but he was healthy enough to play. So I said, "Oh, screw it." I actually capped ownership in Jamar Chase at 10%, and I capped ownership on Joe Burrow at 10%. So this was one of the 10% lineups, and
Did you so I'll tell you something I did, which was I just actually locked Chase only with Burrow. So I said, you know what? If Chase fails, Burrow's failing too. Therefore, I'm gonna contain the damage of those lineups to just the Joe Burrow lineup. So I might have had 12 or 13%, but it was all with Burrow together. Did you do that, or you let it ride? But
yeah, it was essentially everything that I got with Burrow. I looked at the percentages. It was Burrow, and then it was Chase, and they were together. So it wasn't Trent Irwin and Tyler Boyd. They were all tied together. Um,
I could tell this is a sim model generated lineup because just the bring back, the way it, the third player in that lineup, but the bring back for sure here with Singletary, like you weren't, if you had the boost on, the game stack sort of boost on, you were getting Singletary in your Burrow lineup every time.
yeah,
Um, it was
I
just
had a
going to
lot
happen.
of Tank Dell. I had a lot of Noah Brown in Joe Burrow lineups. But if I here's the way that this could work in to gain more leverage into the Millie Maker. You drop down from Joe Burrow to Dak, and from Chase down to CeeDee Lamb. Basically, you're netting $200 in salary, and you gain 33 to 34 more DraftKings points. And this is a top 10 Millie Maker lineup.
Yeah, I mean, it could have got there. Let's take a look at what won, Burns. I don't want to relive this pain anymore. It was pain.
Yeah, it was our. I mean, it
Well,
was fine. They're always tough to handle. But you know,
this is
if that
Burns.
game doesn't go off, it's $1 million lineup
This is
for sure.
Burns talking to his wife after the game. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. No, no, I'm totally fine.
This is the second
There's nothing
time this
wrong.
year. This is the second time this year that I've had a lineup that has crusted the ability to win the Millie Maker. Last time was 3 weeks ago. One switch of the lineup, Aaron Jones for Jahmyr Gibbs, and that's $1 million lineup.
Brutal. It's
It's
so
just how it
so.
goes, man. It's just how it goes.
I had a little pain of my own this weekend. Aside from like actively saying I'm not gonna be high, I'm not playing Dak. I don't like those situations, so that doesn't feel good. I had my own pain. But the worst one for me this weekend was Sunday Night Football. I believe it was Jets playing, and I'm hanging out in first place in the big tournament. When
Oh,
I
nice.
say for a long time, I'm talking about from like 7 minutes left in the game, and I'm just hanging out there. Like every play is just helping it. I'm like, okay, all right.
Solo?
No, I was, but a small group that it was like a pretty
Okay.
nice amount of money. It was maybe, maybe a 6 or 7 group, person group, which is, that's great.
Showdown Million Maker?
Not the Millie Maker. I don't do
Okay.
I don't play the Millie Maker. I play the $5 or the $3, like the play action and the flicker. So those are the ones I play in. And I'm hanging out in first place. I'm like, okay. And so the dollar amount was not crazy, but I like winning. Like it was
Yep.
like a sick amount of money. It was like 5,700, but I like winning,
Right.
of course. And it always feels good to win. And I'm like, okay. And especially when we do a showdown breakdown, we do a show. I love it because we do the breakdown. And then I'm like, yeah, showdown breakdown is showdown takedown. I'm already like starting to get comfortable with it. Not really. I know not to. It was the last play, the
Oh, okay.
reception to Conklin that Zach Wilson threw. Like that never, I was like, oh, he ain't completing that shit. Like off his back foot, a pass that Zach Wilson never hits ever. I saw it go up in there. I'm like, he's running around, he's scrambling. They're rushing him. I'm like, ooh, under pressure. This guy can't throw under pressure. He just heaves one up, doesn't even know where he's throwing it. Conklin just like walks underneath it, happens to be there. I don't even think there was aiming towards each other. It just happened. And I'm like, oh shit, that's a 30-yard play. Fuck. And of course, you watch the leaderboard and there you go. Bloop. First
Yeah.
place, 123rd place. That one pass And it's just pain. I
Man.
know not to get excited in a showdown until it's over, but this was over. Like, this should have been over. The Jets were done, and the other team had the ball. They just needed the first down. They didn't get the first down. I was like, shit. And then the Jets get the ball back. I'm like, it's Zach Wilson. What the fuck's he gonna do? And it was just this one player. Like, if he threw it to Garrett Wilson, I was cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was pain. But anyway, we'll get over the pain. Listen, that's how it is. The thrill of victory is never as good unless you've experienced the agony of defeat. And I'm going to keep saying it till hopefully I start to believe it. So let's just take a look at what won the Millie Maker last week. I'm not sure if this is like super visible on screen, but it's a Dak, Dak, CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Cooks stack. There is no bring back here, of course. No need to bring back with the Giants. They stink. And then he just squeezed in a couple of chalky plays. Your Najee Harris call. So somebody's watching the show. But Najee Harris, cheap running back. Everybody liked Rachaad White. He was in a good spot. Devin Singletary makes this lineup even better, but whatevs. And double tight end, which is something we, the double stack with Lamb and Brandon Cooks and Dak. Yeah, sure. Putting Keenan Allen in, that's cool, right? Obvious.
Yeah.
We talked up the double stack. We talked up Hawkinson and Trey McBride all week. So, and we talked about like this was a week when you can double tight end it in all my breakdowns because of Trey McBride and because not just Hawkinson, but we really liked Dalton Schultz and Sam Laporte as well. Neither one of those guys like did it, right? But Hawkinson got there. After that, even with a shitty score at defense, it did not matter. And Royal Pain 21 takes down the million. Let me just see something here on this user. Let's see if we can go expose. I just want to see how many lineups. So he is Royal Pain 21 is a 150 max guy.
Yep. He does it all the time.
Yeah. Interesting that second place went to just a dude who put in 3 lineups. So reminder that you can actually win this by just putting in a couple of lineups as well, but you damn well better be crazy with what you're putting in.
Well, more and more people think that you need 150 lineups. I've seen it in our Discord, like, oh, you need 150 lineups to win this. No, you don't actually. I would have crested and won this sucker with 50 generated lineups. So
yeah, 50 works. You don't need 150. But I think the reason they think that is because because I put in one every week and I don't win. But yeah, you're generally not going to win this. Like, we have seen one-off lineups win this. Remember Dolphin and the big Tua stack?
Yeah.
So we've seen one-off lineups win these. Just understand when you're entering the Millie Maker that it is a crapshoot. I also had another really interesting, I'm going to show you something on screen here. I think it's really important. And listen, this isn't relative to, we're going to break through the week 11 slate. Sorry if you don't like the look back analysis, and we don't do this every week. Skip forward if you need to. But I want to talk about one really important thing here about people who max enter. I'm going to show you something on screen. The vast majority of people who max enter, put the 150 in, are going to lose money. And you could see it just like right here on screen. Look at all the red. These are all the 150 maxers in this contest. And I have it unfortunately sorted by ROI. So like for whatever reason, this sort put the winners first, but you're going to see a sea of red, right? Here's all the red, right? Next page, right? Look at this. It is a sea of losses. Look at it. Okay, these are the best players. How do I know they're the best players? Because they have enough money to put in 150 lineups. So page 2 was all red. This is 100 people that all lost money. Okay, page 1, right after the first little group here, pretty much goes all red for the second half. So you're talking about 50, 60, 70 out of 100 that went red here as well, 75 maybe. So your ratio of winning to losing, and last week was a good optimizer week, but you're going to lose money 90% of the time when you max enter, and that's not just a Millie Maker. That is every contest. I can switch from contest. The reason I'm saying this, Burns, is I want people who watch these shows, who read your book, to understand the expectations of maxing out a tournament, especially an NFL tournament,
Right.
on DraftKings or FanDuel, when you MME it, chances are this is the flea. So this is the one I'm in. Actually, you can see my shit here, right? I should be in here. I'll show you mine. Even I lost money on this one, minus 400. One of those people who lose, right? Flea, you're going to get the winners, and then you're going to get a whole lot of losses.
Yep.
That's page 1. Page 2, all negatives. That's 100. That's 100 people. This guy, holy shit, that's a lot to lose. Wait, I got to see this one. How do you lose 710 out of $750? Somebody went, I don't know. It's a lot of Joe Mixon, I guess. I don't know, but this guy lost almost 100% of his entry fees. There's another one, a 712 loser, 702. These guys are Papa Smurf, 712. You're going to lose money when you max enter these contests 90% of the time. So then what's the question is, well, why would you do it? Why would you max enter that if you lose money 90% of the time? Like, or you hear on Twitter or on social media, it's like, oh, if I could put 150 lineups in, I would win every time.
It's so difficult. It's probability theory, what it really comes down to. You're taking 177,000, and how many of the 177,000 in the Millie Maker are max entering it? So you take all those 150 lineups times the number of people max entering it, subtract it from the 177,000. And then from there, those others that aren't basically max entering, it's just it's a knapsack problem is what it's called in mathematics. It's just probabilities of things happening. People think that more lineups equals more abilities to generate probably the one lineup that can win it, and that's what it is. I used to do it at 20 lineups. I now do about 50. I think the sweet spot really is about 50. If you want to get where it's lower number of lineups, I think 50 is about the sweet spot. But it used to be for me, it was 20. Like I've been in the top 10 in this sucker. So I've done it 3 times in the days, and it's not something that's unheard of.
You can do it. You have to be contrarian. You have to bring your own view. It's always going to be really tough. And the next thing I wanted to say, because I did get and it's funny, I'm looking at some of these names, and it's people who are some of these people, like people who are good at DFS, like the 150 maxers. Here's Megan Joy, who's won the Millie Maker multiple times. Where I just saw Al Smizzle up in here. Like,
Yeah.
these are guys people who are good at this.
The week before, Al Smizzle had 5 lineups in the top 50.
Yeah, he did something crazy last week, and this week he's losing a ton of money. So understand this. This is just a general DFS thing, because people watch the show and it's like Secrets of the Millie Maker and all that. And we do try to analyze these Millie Maker winning lineups and what you have to do. But it's important to understand that if you want to survive in DFS for a long time, if you want to be able to play this for a while and not constantly put in money, you have to really understand the contest that you're entering. These Millie Makers, the MME, first of all, you should not be doing a Millie Maker until you've won multiple smaller tournaments over the years. There are flea flickers, there's the flea, there's the mini max. There are so many smaller contests that you should be doing to prove that you can win a tournament, and do it with less money so that you don't feel the pressure to, for example, like go really chalky because everybody's playing Joe Mixon at RB. I got to follow along even though I don't really like him, right? So you feel that pressure. You don't want to do that. You want to use your entries to the Millie Maker or any tournament that you're entering, that you're mass multi-entering, as your throwaway money for the week. It's like, I'm going to have some fun, right? I'm throwing it away. Right. That's not how I churn my bankroll positively each week. No, how do I do the positive bankroll thing? Those should be achieved. Not everybody wants to play cash games, and I get that, but everybody should at the very least be focusing on smaller tournaments. And by that, I mean the 50 person, the 27 person, the 150 entry. You can win those.
Yeah. If you really want to get into, if you have never really done MMEing and you want to get into it, there's a contest where you can actually do it for affordable price. The 50-cent mini max, you can get into that. It's a very it's not a sharp field. What I mean by that is you're not getting guys like Al Smizzle in there. You're not getting the Osmos in there because they're not allowed to enter these types of contests because they're below a certain entry level.
I
So
do not see the mini maxes on my screen. Like I'm not
yeah,
able to enter that.
so you can enter these and you can enter 150 lineups. You can figure out how to develop lineups in an optimizer, whatever optimizer you use. Uh,
Burns, there's only one
I
optimizer.
I get it. We have the best optimizer in the industry, but I will say this: there are people that are not with DFS Army that are watching this, and get over here to DFS Army because we do have the best optimizer. Um, but if
Well,
you're
the other
using
bonus
a
of the bonus of the domination station, you don't have to play for money, is that you can the back test mode is unlike anything else. You
right,
cannot do this anywhere. You can play you can go, our back test allows you to go right back to last week's event, the week before, last year, the last 3 years worth of DFS contests for whatever sport you're into, replay those,
that's right,
see the stats, see the ownership projections, see the projections themselves going into the contest, re-optimize, mess around with it. And then you have a final fantasy points comp so you could see what the score was that you would have achieved doing these things. So you can you can muscle memory yourself. One of the things I always tell people is if you're not able to achieve a GPP win on back test, you're not doing it on forward. You
that's right.
better hit them on back test first. Like you figure out, all right, here's like a set of options. And of course, we do a lot of live stream training and everything for this stuff. But here are the options, or here's the way I do it, or here's what I do with a chalky great wide receiver, like 33%, because the math splits them up into all these different, because there's 3 wide receivers. Like whatever it is that you're doing, test it in back test first. Find a process that feels kind of comfortable and that you have confidence in. And then going forward, you'll have confidence to apply that. When you're going forward and you're like kind of guessing at what works, you keep changing what you're doing every single week. You end up chasing what
Right.
worked last week.
Yep.
And that doesn't work. That's not a great way to play DFS. You need to be consistent. Like one week you're fading the chalk. It screwed me. Now this week I'm going to go crazy on the chalk, and shit, this was the week I should have faded the chalk. And so that is just a cycle of losing that you don't want to do.
Yeah, and the difference between DFS Army, for those that are not part of the DFS Army team, is that we have the optimizer for every sport. Maybe minus like one sport where we just don't have it in there yet.
No college basketball.
So college basketball, there we go. That one sport is college basketball.
Too hard. Too many players.
Yeah,
Can't
so
get it going.
we have it for every sport, and we have people that understand the optimizer for every sport. Um, and so if you're with another DFS um, site out there and they don't have an optimizer, but you're looking for that one DFS site that has a really good optimizer that is very user friendly, come over to DFS Army because it is extremely user friendly. It is very, very simplistic to understand. I have developed manuals for the NFL, so you can just utilize those manuals and then tag on top of that, you tag on the new sim boost. And that's basically, that my user settings never change. I use the same settings in the domination station week in and week out for each main slate on the NFL. NHL is the exact same way. I'm like habitual. As soon as I get in there, I habitually go right through all my settings. And then from there, what makes the difference between my lineups and your lineups are who I apply boost onto the projections. Like I add adores or loves, and that's it. And then you just run them and you got your lineups. But those people that are not a part of DFS Army and you want to be a part of a really great community in the DFS community and with a great optimizer, come on board because we have the best.
Absolutely. Well, I love that. I love that. Love that those positive words, Burns. So with that being said, let's shift focus to the NFL Week 11 slate, and it's an interesting one as always. It's always an interesting slate. Nothing new here. And let's talk a little bit about some of these game situations and some QBs that we might want to target in stacks. And I think we'll focus there and then just jump over, talk a little running back position, and then we'll jump to defense. I don't want to go too detailed. Of course, we do tournament tactics on Friday afternoons or Friday evenings as well, where we'll get a little more in depth on all the different player groups. But just starting at the top, Burns, we have another interesting setup this week, and I'll pull up DraftKings on screen. Let's go to this view so it's a little bigger. But you have the most expensive guy here, Josh Allen at home against the Jets. Allen struggling, Jets good defense, pretty low game total there. Tua at home against the Raiders, great matchup in terms of the Raiders not at the best of defenses, a little more bad versus the run than the past this year, but another kind of game where there's a really wide spread. Both of these games have massive spreads. Last week it was the Dak situation, and Dak as well. Actually, I'll put him on that list as well. So you have the three of the four most expensive quarterbacks in games where their teams are massive favorites. So my question for you is, should we react differently to these? I asked John Statsational Alessia the same question when we did the game plan earlier, and he kind of said, well, it's not that big of a deal. If it's a heavy spread, I just play the teams and I don't care. Obviously, these aren't game stack situations for the most part. I wouldn't game stack these, but Dak, Tua, Josh Allen, all heavy favorites. How are you treating it this week?
So, man, this is a tough week. We got high spreads, but first off, like on the top of the range, this is a tough game for Josh Allen. I'm glad it's at home for him because he went to New York first week of the season and just had a really bad game against the Jets. The whole Buffalo Bills team had a game. It was the worst I've seen it. We saw Aaron Rodgers all hyped up. He's out there for 5 plays and basically blows out his ACL or his Achilles. So the way I'm looking at this is I'm looking at basically I want those games that are going to be high implied team totals. I'm like John, I'm just going to play them, man. I'm just going to play the favorites. What we are seeing more and more this year is as we're going along, favorites are weighing out more now. We know what we got. In these games where these teams are not favored by the Vegas betting lines, they're that way for a reason. At this point in time in the season, but right now with the favorites, I mean, top favorites on the board right now. I love the Houston game. CJ Stroud again with Arizona coming in. Hopefully, Kyler Murray can keep up pace with CJ Stroud and that high potent passing offense with Tank Dell and Noah Brown, and add in Dalton Schultz. I don't know if we're going to get
Noah Brown may be out this week. Just
maybe with Nico Collins too.
Yeah.
So that might be a little bit of an issue, but from there, I don't mind Tua this week, but he's so expensive and it's very difficult to double stack him. It's basically Tua and Tyreek and call it a day.
You almost can't double stack Tua at this point because Waddle's so mispriced for his role that it almost ruins your lineup.
It does
to have him in there because he's so mispriced. That's the great thing about the boost rule, by the way. So what the sim boost rule does, and one of how it's different is it's not going to force that second player in there unless they're kind of a good projected value anyway. That's a big difference between using the sim versus just using a set rule, force 2 with Tua, right? That it's going to grab him no matter what. With the sim, the projection has to somewhat be reasonable to salary in order for that player to wind up in the lineup. So that's what I really like. I've loaded up the game tiles on screen here from the optimizer from the Domination Station. So there's a little better way to look at these games. And you mentioned Yeah, I really like the Texans at home against the Cardinals. It seems great, and Kyler Murray's back, and maybe they can make a real game of it, you know. So that could be a fun one. That's about the only game that actually that got the that did get the vaunted, the vaunted. Let's where is it? Where yeah,
Boner alert.
worth it
Yeah.
for that game, right? That's the one that excites me as well. CJ Stroud priced up like crazy though. So
7K now.
yeah,
I still like the 6K range. I still really do like a lot of these guys in the 6K range. One of them is in the second highest point total game. Chicago, Detroit at home. I'm really liking Goff in this one. Yeah, we got Fields coming back for this one. Um, Fields is a good quarterback. He's a running quarterback mainly, but he can sling it too. We got DJ Moore in this one. Obviously, we got Amon Ra and we got Laporta. But what's making me a little hesitant, but I'm not really all that much hesitant on this, is the running back situation.
it's the same as last week. You're going to have that every week with Detroit, and it's just going to be a thing that's going to keep coming up, right?
Yeah, but Chicago's at least more competent against the run than the Chargers were last week.
Yeah, they're a little better. So if it could slow that run game, but now that there's two guys that they want to focus on, I'm telling you, it's going to be really tough for Goff to get there. I think it's going to be tough, almost like rest of season, for Goff to put up anything more than like a 23 or a 25 pointer, which might be enough for his salary. But the last couple weeks, we've seen the spike 40s and the 35s. And, when any player goes off, like when you get a Dak doing that, or Mahomes, or even one of those guys, and they go up for 35 plus, when you leave those points on the table, you're just not winning anything. You saw it with Dak last week. The second a quarterback goes over like 38, 40, you're done. Like if you don't have him, you're done.
That's right.
You're done. But if that doesn't happen, which it doesn't always happen, then these 25s that you can get from a Goff in a game like this could really work. What about the other side of that game and a little Jay Fiddles coming back off the injury?
I mean, him and Moore and Komet, that would be the best way to go about it with that game. I don't know if Donta Foreman can get it done in this game from a running situation. So, it lends more to a Fields with Moore and Komet, and you got Mooney in there, but Mooney and Quana St. Brown, I don't know.
No, Mooney
They're
maybe.
just
I
secondary pieces.
I give a wink to Mooney. No Equinemius.
Right.
Or as we like to call him, the turd god.
Yeah, they're like fourth options on this team if you want to really get into the nitty gritty on Chicago. But, I ran the optimizer because I really wanted to see what I was going to get from a first run perspective, put in all my settings. I didn't add any like gloves or doors to any of the players. I haven't even set any of the quarterback situations that I want in terms of like Xing out quarterbacks. So every quarterback was in there. The guy in the 6K range that is exploding in all my in about 35% of the lineups is Trevor Lawrence this week. Like he is exploding. So that's a guy that this could be a very favorable situation for them going up against Tennessee. Tennessee is not a good defense against the pass, and vice versa. This game could actually be closer than what the line is indicating here of a -7, and it could actually score a lot higher than 40 because Jacksonville is not very good against the pass either.
They're very, very good against the run, by the way. It's important to
right.
note that's how these things go. They're great against the run, not good against the pass. Listen, I'm not sure if Will Levis is the guy though. He might
Yeah.
be terrible. I'm trying to see what. All right, so I just ran it raw,
Yeah.
and yeah, there you go. And hey, second guy is Kyler Murray. So
Yep.
that's interesting.
CJ, you getting some Tua. This is exactly what I was getting.
Yeah.
I was getting a lot of Trevor, and I was getting a lot of Kyler, and then it went to Stroud, Tua, and then a little bit of Geno.
I'm thinking that the Trevor. I'm not sure what the love is for Trevor. I think it's more. Let's see here. Yeah, no, he's just projecting well relative to these other guys. No one's just projecting all that great. That's really what it comes down to is, you know, no one's
Right.
projecting all that great. I'm not sure the ceiling is there because I do think you can run against the Titans. They haven't been that great versus the run, and ETN is very dominant and all of that, but it's an okay spot. I'm not going to go crazy like this on T Law though. Who else?
I mean, Gino's in a good spot this week against the Rams, going on the road. But I don't know if I'm in love with it. I I kind of like the passing game or the receiving game for the Rams more in that game. But I'm not in love with Stafford. So
Can't play Stafford at his price. Literally impossible.
6,400. He's just too expensive for his production this year. Um, Other games on the slate that are looking pretty good from a QB standpoint, but it's a big spread too. Is Brock Purdy? It's a big spread. Tampa Bay has given up a lot of fantasy points to the wide receivers and quarterbacks this year. So that's another one that to keep on your radar. And then another game that is probably going to go under owned, but you know could actually be sneaky here is that Green Bay Chargers game. Chargers are extremely bad against the wide receivers. Um, I'm not
It's
saying that the Green Bay side is going to blow up or anything with Love, but it could actually benefit like you know Dobbs or even Watson in this game. So I think if you do anything with the Green Bay Packers wide receivers, um, I would have them as one-offs. I don't think you have to pair them up with
yeah.
Love in this game.
That is some silly for the Millie stuff. Like no one's touching those Packers wide receivers this year, but it's a great matchup.
Mhm.
I don't love the other side of it, the Chargers side, not really popping for me. These Packers games don't tend to like go high scoring. They're a very slow and methodical type of a team.
I like one piece from the Chargers.
Eckler,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yep.
Eckler, I think is the Eckler might be the best running back this week, maybe even a little better than Christian McCaffrey, although probably not, but he's cheaper. Yeah, I like Eckler as well. One game that, last week, the team that played against the Giants put up a crazy good score. So Washington's playing the Giants.
Yeah. Can we see it again this week? Sam Howell's been just slinging it left and right all over the place in the games. He did it last week against Seattle again. I mean, we're talking about 40 plus attempts a game since basically week 7. So this guy just keeps slinging it. And, Giants are atrocious. They are an atrocious team. I hate to say to be a fan of them, it kind of scratched my head. Why am I doing that to myself? But you know, Sam Howell is another good piece here, and you can pair him easily with McLaurin. You can pair him with Jahan Dotson and Curtis Samuel. He actually got quite a few targets last game. And then I actually I do like Brian Robinson in this game as well.
I figured
He
I figured you'd like him again. It's too bad Brian Robinson wasn't in that Millie Maker lineup, or was he? No.
No, but he was in a couple of the top 20s.
Yeah.
And I
You were
had
pushing that big last week.
Yeah, I had 26% of him in all my Millie lineups. I don't even know how I got that. It was like I just put a love on him and he just entered in it because in my 150s, I got like 5% of them. But in my 50 lineups, I got 26%. Go figure, right?
Weird.
Yeah, it's
Never know.
weird.
Never know.
But yeah, Brian Robinson could go off again. If Antonio Gibson is out this game, which could be a potential spot,
Is that a thing?
um, I think it might be. I've heard of it that he might be out. I haven't confirmed, so don't take that to the bank
No,
or
I'm
anything.
putting it on screen. Let's see. Toe was not spotted at Thursday's practice. Missed Wednesday as well. I like it.
So he's questionable, but if he's out, Brian Robinson is not going to stay at 3.66% that he's projected right now in our domination station. He's going to go a lot higher than that.
You know,
And
price
then,
on him. He's very expensive relative to his usual production and volume. But yeah, if he's going to be the guy that's going to be on the field the whole time against the Giants,
yeah.
I like that. All right, so let's actually transition over to running back as we started talking about them a little bit. And I think we've covered, for the most part, most of the relevant QBs for this week. So let's talk running back for a second here. And I'll start at the top. I'm going to bring up the DraftKings screen actually for this one. Why not? So I'll bring up DraftKings here, and we'll use that as our guide. We'll use that as our guide. There it is, a little bigger on screen. And at the very top, of course, Christian McCaffrey gets a rough draw, but it doesn't really matter. He's Christian McCaffrey. Doesn't need a good draw to have a good number. But I'm not sure that against Tampa, I would be banking on the 38 fantasy points he needs to sort of justify the price. Tough draw, but playable here. Eckler, what a matchup. Packers just bleeding points to running backs all season long. So that's a great spot for Eckler. I think ETN. So who do you like up top here? Is Barkley playable at 7K at this point? On a Giants team that should feed him the ball 30 times if he's not banged up too much.
Man, it's tough to play him right now because they are so bad. The quarterback situation it's ridiculously bad how bad Tommy DeVito is. He's not an NFL quarterback by any stretch. And it doesn't do justice for Saquon Barkley. This would be a great game if Danny Dimes was in this game and Barkley would have a really good game. I don't see it happening. I think Barkley's almost a fade at this point. Maybe, put him in sub 2% of your lineups, but he's pretty much a fade because just below him is a guy that's in a way, way better offense. They utilize the running backs much more effectively. Is Jahmyr Gibbs with Detroit. He's so much better play than Barkley in this game. At the top, though, I understand McCaffrey is a great running back, but if I had to pick between him and Eckler, it's Eckler all day. I just like the spot better for him. If it was in LA, this would be a no-brainer load up, but it's in Green Bay. So they could face weather in this game. So that's to be monitored as we go along the week. But what that'll do is that it's pretty much just going to take out the passing games and make this much more effective game for the running in Eckler. So
yeah, I just Eckler is that guy that you want to try to get in there if you're going to pay up. There are some great pay down options though. You don't have to. I don't feel like in breaking down the slate, I didn't feel like, oh my gosh, I have to pay 8,600. There's a lot of good running backs on the slate in general.
Yeah, I agree.
Scrolling down a little bit out of this stud zone here. So the return of Devon Achane is probably set to happen this week, which for me, it does not bode the best for him or Mostert. They're priced. There's no discount here. There's no bargain. Both are expensive. There's two of them. I think that's a tough scene to pick one. I don't think I'll have a lot of either. I think I'll have very little of these guys. I'm going to lean Achane just because I don't know, but I don't love it. You've got Jacobs as an underdog. How do you feel about running back underdog? Jacobs is going to be fed carries in this game. And one of the things I was talking to John about in the other show was, when a team has a young quarterback like Aiden O'Connell, when they get into the red zone, if they get into the red zone, and that's the big if, but if they get into it's not, quotation marks are not relevant to there. I don't know why I did that. But if they get in the red zone, what ends up happening is the team doesn't really trust that quarterback to throw in that short field. So they're going to lean heavier on let's run it. Let's run it. You know how if it's an experience, if it's Aaron Rodgers back there, all of a sudden Aaron Rodgers in the shotgun and they're throwing it to Randall Cobb, at the one, and you're like, what the fuck is that? Or they're throwing a pass to Devontae Adams in the corner or whatever the Packers would do, because that's Aaron Rodgers and they're comfortable and they have plays. When it's Aiden O'Connell, they're like, oh, don't throw an interception. We're finally at the 2-yard line. Hand it off, hand it off, hand it off, hand it off. Let's push it in, right? They don't want to take chances. So I think those situations do probably increase the likelihood of, if they're at the goal line, that the running back will get the ball.
Right. Yeah. I mean, Jacobs, can he pay off his salary? He's done it one time this year on the main slate. That was against the Giants the last time out in the main slate. Can he do it again in this game? He's got the potential to do it. I just don't like our rushing, what we have for a projection on him for rush yards, or for the Vegas team in general, 81 yards. I mean, that's really low. So I'd rather see a much higher rush projection for him.
I'm assuming you're looking at the
power rankings.
Yeah, the power ranking sheet. Yeah.
Yeah, I always look at those to get a good sense of what we're looking at from a projection standpoint for the game, for a rushing and passing perspective, and total points as well. Yeah, I mean, he could get it done, but I think the likelihood is less than what others may think about that.
One rushing attack that the power rankings do like, surprisingly, is Dallas and Tony Pollard.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was going to go next. So a lot of people, what I can see happening, there's going to be a shift this week. Like, everybody was on Pollard, and now Dak went off against the Giants. Well, be careful with Dak this week, going into Carolina on the road. Carolina sports a very good pass defense, to the point where they've shut down some passing offenses this year.
They're the number 2. They're number 2 in the league at limiting passing yards to opposing offenses. Number 2, second only to the Ravens.
Yeah, they're very good. Like, they're 5th in average fantasy points against the position of quarterback, and that's not good. You don't want that. But they're very bad against the run. So Pollard is going to be, I think Pollard is going to be this is the play in this game, where a lot of people go right to Dak. They've seen Dak produce the last 2 weeks in a row, and they're like, oh yeah, it's Dak CD Lamb all day long. Well, I don't know if I go against the numbers on this one.
Let's see if we have an early ownership projection here.
Pollard's in around 15%.
Yeah, he's coming in around 15. So
I was hoping he would see about 8% there.
Yeah, that's not the bargain ownership that I was hoping to see.
Yeah, but he may be that guy this week that people just can't click on, and no matter what, and you get a lot of guys that are sharp in the industry that are like, yeah, Pollard could be the week for him, just that one explosion week. And it could be this week, and I like it, and I don't have to worry about ownership on a running back. Generally, running backs, we look at volume and we look at opportunities. So this is that kind of play where you really don't have to worry about ownership per se here.
It's amazing how they refuse to really throw to him in certain games. Like last week, 0 targets. Other weeks he's getting 5 or 6, but I mean, it goes down to 0 with Pollard pretty quick. So, it's going to be a tough one to pull the trigger on, but I think it's wonderful leverage against, a lot of people probably wanting to chase what happened with Dak last week. And I don't blame them. It sucked not having a whole lot of Dak last week. So
I know.
Yeah, I get it. I want to chase it too, but you got to fight that emotion. There are some other really good spots here at running back as well. What do you think? So one of the guys that I hear people mentioning and talking about is Breece Hall. I don't like it very much, but how do you feel about Breece Hall? I mean, obviously, if the Jets are going to be competitive, that's probably how it's going to happen.
Yeah. When I was making first lineups earlier in the week, not having real sense of the entire slate as a whole at that point in time, he was kind of like, okay, yeah, this makes sense. But a guy just below him, I've never seen this before. I mean, this is probably the first time I've ever seen this from him. Derrick Henry is at 6,300. I don't think I've ever seen Derrick Henry at 63. This is just an odd look of a running back that, we're so used to seeing him like 7,200 and above, 7K and above, week in and week out, and he just not hit his value at all.
He's
So
priced where he's supposed to be.
DraftKings is pricing him right. Does that mean that we automatically jump on board the train now? I don't know. I mean, I'm looking at Jacksonville's average fantasy points against the running back position, and they're just average. They're actually below my threshold. Um, they've actually got a pretty good defensive line against the running back position, and we only have them projected at 81 yards rushing. So even if he is at 6,300, it's still not a great spot.
I'm not down with that. Jacksonville is elite against the run and elite against the Derrick Henry style up the gut runner. You could throw to the running back, but they don't really throw to Henry. I also think that Henry is so tied to the Tennessee Titans offense being competent. And I am not convinced at all that Will Levis is competent at QB at all. So I'm not down with Henry here. I'll tell you who I tell you who's popping for me, and you can tell. I think Aaron Jones is okay. It's the Chargers, and they can be run on. I don't normally like to play Aaron Jones in DFS, but he's somebody I think that is acceptable. Rachaad White, I'm going to get off this week. I'm not on that. I don't like the matchup. San Francisco, no bueno. I'm down with your Brian Robinson Jr. thoughts. Yeah, sure. Why not? Especially if I think I love Brian Robinson Jr. if Antonio Gibson is out. I don't think I like him. I think I love him. And so that's going to be really exciting to have a guy that you kind of feel super comfortable with. Connor's okay, but Singletary is popping for me.
Yeah, me too. I like him a lot again this week. I loved him last week.
As well.
He went up in salary a little bit. He's at 5,300, so he got a $600 bump for having a 27-point DraftKings day last week. That's actually a pretty moderate increase.
Yeah, barely. 5,300 is fine. I mean, whatever, what was he last week? 5K? 47. All right. So yeah, that actually, what's weird psychologically? Running backs under 5K, they go lower owned. There's a psychological thing going on there where you see the price and you're like, oh, he must suck. And so people don't play them.
And he was like 7.5% owned in the Millie Maker last week.
Under owned. And it's funny, the only reason I didn't have more of him is because I had a lot of Stroud. So I was like, it's just not a really good match with Stroud, but I kind of even wanted to play him with Stroud. I think he made my first look lineup with Stroud last week, and that's who I built around, and it was good. By the way, a lot of people crushed the early slate. We had a lot of winners in the early slate because that was a really sharp play. But I like Singletary again, not because he did it last week, but all that volume combined with going up against Arizona, who happens to be very, very bad against the run this year. So it's a good matchup for him. Ford. What do you think about Ford? Backup quarterback, Dorian Tomlinson Green or whatever. I can't.
This was one that I was like, I'm toying back and forth with. I'm like, is he gonna produce this week? What is his path for production? Deshaun Watson is completely out for the entire year. Shoulder broken, fixing it with surgery. It's Dorian Thompson this week. Man, this is a good matchup for him because Pittsburgh's not a great defense against the run. They're good against pass catching running backs. So that kind of limits Kareem Hunt in this game. But Ford is actually he's a pretty dynamic runner for the Cleveland Browns. And I could see the Cleveland Browns just handing the ball off to him a lot here. Maybe using the Njoku with Dorian Thompson because he's basically a rookie and he hasn't had much success in the NFL at this current point in time. He's had really one start and it didn't go the way he wanted, like the way that Cleveland wanted and didn't really go how everybody else thought it could go because he was a preseason darling. So we'll have to see how this all shakes out. But this game total is really, really low. I think it's at 32.5 points, maybe 33 now. Extremely low. But Ford at 53, 5,200. I mean, that's a dynamite salary for him.
So the big thing for me with Ford is people still haven't really come around to the fact that he is like the guy on his team. And so he's on a running. I was going to be all in. Like if you watch the first look video I did on DraftKings, and I'm sure you did.
Yep.
Hurt my feelings if you didn't. So
I always watch him.
Good. All right. So he's like Ford was my guy. I was like, oh, Ford, this is a great matchup. He's at home. People are still 5,300. Deshaun Watson was still playing at that time, so it was fine. And I was like, oh yeah, Ford's my guy. People still haven't figured. This was like a cheat code almost. Like people have not seemed to figure out that Ford. It's not Hunt. Ford is playing the Chubb role on this team that is really good at running the football. I still kind of think Ford can have a good game.
I do too. I'm not really all that worried about him. His salary allows us to have that, right? If he was 6K, we would have a different conversation right now about him. But he's at 5,200, and he's done it, right? He's been pushing 20 DraftKings points.
He's averaging almost 3x this salary, which is what you want.
That's right.
Like I want, he's averaging 2.5x salary here, or 2 3/4. That's good.
Yeah, he can get there. I mean,
yeah.
He's produced in a lot tougher situations than he's in this week. So
nice. Yeah, I agree. I don't think there's anybody else. I know you're a Darrell Henderson guy. I don't know, Burns. I don't know about this Darrell Henderson love.
Not anymore for me.
Okay, you're off the train.
When I was looking at him that 1 week, still didn't have an idea of how they were going to utilize him. And then I saw it and I was like, nah, he's done. So
yeah, I think we'll wait till next week and play some Kyren Williams as the running back.
He's coming back next week?
Yeah, he should be back next week. Okay. And we'll be able to get back on that Rams running game bandwagon with Kyren. And Kyren might not be as good. Kyren might be splitting with Darrell Henderson a little bit now, but
oh well. Yeah, I think once Kyren's back, it's his show again.
Yeah, that's fair. I'll jump over to wide receiver here, and let's do this a little brief in terms of like stud, medium dud kind of thing. We'll just kind of brief it out. So give me 3 studs that you really are wanting to focus in on above the others. So, by studs, I mean Hill, Lamb, Diggs, Keenan Allen, Amon-Ra, Kupp, even Devontae would be in that discussion, I guess. But of that crew, and Jalen Waddle's just the weirdo who doesn't belong. So of that crew, a couple of names that you like above all the others.
Yeah, if I'm I like Hill a lot this week, whether it be a one-off in lineups or with Tua. You can go either way with him. I'm off of Lamb. I like Amon-Ra only with Goff. But the guy that I like a lot this week with one-offs, everything, is Kupp. I'm all about him this week. 8,100 for him is much lower than what we've seen. It might even be the lowest salary he's been at all year.
It is by far the lowest.
So I like him a lot. You got Matt Stafford back this week. Him and Matt Stafford are they're like 1-2 punch. Puka had a little bit of success there that one game, but it's been Cooper Kupp since he came back.
Kupp and Stafford, they're like mac and cheese.
Oh, for sure. But yeah, those are the guys that I like this week at that really high level salary. I mean, Tyreek Hill is extremely high in salary, so if you can't get to him, don't feel bad. He's going to be tough to get to.
Can't get to him. Can't. Yeah, I agree with you. I'd be. I want to also say like I'm not on Diggs. Not
yeah, it's tough. Only with Allen. Only with Allen.
Yeah, if I played Allen, I'll have a couple of Allen lineups just because I had a rule a couple of years ago that always play Josh Allen, every slate. But like,
yeah, me
too. A horrible spot for Josh Allen. I just want to follow my rule, but I don't like it. I had to put him on my sheet because I'm like, yeah, I'm going to have it. But Jets are not the team that you go to like find really good fantasy production against. They're good. And they have Sauce Gardner. Like they have good corners. They'll be able to slow down Diggs most likely. CeeDee Lamb, again, it's just a Dak thing at this point. You're either playing Dak with Lamb or you're probably not playing Lamb at all. It's too expensive. Hill, standalone playable there. Even Keenan Allen, I don't like the Q tag for an old player. Coming off that insane game in a lower pace environment where I think the running game will shine for the Chargers. So yeah, Amon-Ra. Yeah, I love your call on Cooper Kupp. You're like kind of getting me on somebody that maybe I wasn't. That's a competitive game, so I like that. Devontae Adams, I don't know that I can do it, Burns. He's not getting there. He hasn't gotten there with Aiden O'Connell.
Yeah, I'm not on Devontae Adams unless the domination station puts him in lineups.
Yeah.
I'm just not on him.
He's good and he's getting volume. It's just like his quarterback's just not that good. So it's hard to trust it. 14 points, 13 targets last week, which is fine. I'm not against Adams. I'll actually allow a little bit of it. I don't want to go away from it, but I have to mention that like I don't really trust his quarterback to be good enough to deliver like a 30-point game to a wide receiver. I could be wrong. That could change. We'll see what happens this week. But that is sort of my thought right now. Listen, you never know.
Right.
Like on Saturday, they're like, oh, we changed our mind and it's Garoppolo. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, all right.
Now Adams makes sense.
Yeah. Or Aiden O'Connell will just be like better.
Yeah.
They're not playing him because they have to. They're playing him because they want to. So maybe there's something to that we're not seeing in these games. And I don't want to hold that much against him that he did poorly against the Jets last week. The Jets are really good at stopping WR1s. Thielen is a no for me. Waddle is a no. Evans is a no on the road at San Francisco. I don't care about the green opponent rank there. It does not help me. Correct me if I'm wrong. Puka, no. Ayuk, not really. I don't hate it, but maybe Ayuk.
He's pretty pricey, but I actually like the run that Debo had last week with Purdy. It was Debo and Kittle last week, and he got a lot of runs. So I really like Debo much more than Ayuk. So
yeah, there we go. And I agree. Whenever all three of their weapons are healthy at the pass catcher, it's hard to know which way they're going to go with the football. That's the part I don't like. I don't like paying up for that. But I think Ayuk is acceptable in tournament play. Metcalf, sure. Metcalf getting a lot of volume the last couple of weeks. Finally.
Yeah, he almost broke it for a touchdown last week too. So
yeah, it's going to happen. So I don't know if Geno is good. I'm just really not sure.
Yeah, he's average.
Yeah,
he's definitely average.
Yeah, like you should never go. And I get these are tough matchups, but like 14 targets, 5 receptions. That is just not good quarterbacking. You don't really see that. 4-10. So he's just been very inefficient.
Yep.
He almost got there last week, but would have needed that touchdown and 2 more yards, and you can tack on another 10 points, and then for that would have been, 26, which still barely gets there. So he's not. It was really
Lockett last week. Lockett got it. He got 23 and a half DraftKings points.
Barely though. It's barely value for the salary as well. Yeah, he's always been better connected with Geno, but here's the thing with Lockett too, like 23, it's just barely getting there at a 6,500 price tag. It's really not even helping you win the tournament. So that's about what he's been doing. Maybe Lockett's the better play. It's interesting. Metcalf should come down more. So should Lockett in my mind. So yeah, I'm not super high in this zone here at all. Anybody that you like here? I mean, you mentioned Debo. I think a Cooper you have to scratch off the list. Hopkins off the list for me. With at this point, I can't trust Will Levis. Wilson on the road. No.
That's
no to Godwin.
One, yeah.
Just overpriced and ridiculous. What has Godwin done to justify being priced at 6,600? I have no idea why it would go up.
He's only getting 6 targets. That's not enough for that salary.
Does not justify it. I think Nico Collins is okay here, but him too. I mean, he's not really.
He might be out too. If he's out, I don't know.
Limited with the calf. Limited. Yeah, I don't know. So it brings us all the way down here So effectively, we found a dead zone, and the dead zone is almost, 7,600
Yeah.
all the way down, pretty much. I'm going to say to maybe Christian Kirk to
Yeah,
6K.
I think Kirk is in a pretty good situation. Trevor Lawrence loves him.
He'll burn your food like Florence. He'll run up in your crib like his name was Search Warrants.
He had a really good game last week.
Yeah.
He produced really well.
Part
A
of that
lot
is also Ridley's dust.
Yeah, a lot of people were on Ridley last week, and Kirk he just had much more dynamic rapport with Lawrence, and Lawrence didn't even have that good of a game last week. But they were playing San Francisco. Now they're actually playing a defense that is not very good against the pass. San Francisco, yeah, they've not been good against the pass, but they're getting a lot better because they've added to their defense. They're starting to get healthier.
Throw
So
away some of those stats.
yeah,
Yeah,
they're gonna
they're a
be a
good
lot
defense.
better.
They're a good defensive team.
Oh
San
yeah.
Francisco. Sometimes you just have to know these guys are good. Like
Oh,
that's why
for
I'm not
sure.
playing a lot of Tampa guys. I'm like, on the road at San Francisco. That's not a good scene for anybody.
No.
Yeah, Tank Dell is very playable. It's probably with those Collins those Stroud lineups, but very much in play. McLaurin, sure.
Yep.
DJ Moore underpriced now for having Fields back. As long as Fields can grip a football, which I hope he can.
Yeah, I like DJ Moore this week.
We'll ask Bobby Wow about the Bears things tomorrow on on Tournament Tactics when we do that show. Marquise Brown as well. I like this game, like this side of it. Anybody else popping for you here? 6 to 5K. I mean, kind of have to live in this zone. I don't, again, we have a dead zone kind of between 7,600 and maybe 69 or 6K with Kirk. I like a lot of the spots here in the 6 to 5K. Is this where you're living this week?
Probably. Yeah, I would say so. I actually do like a lot more of the running backs this week. It might be a 3 running back week versus the 4 wide receivers. So
could see that as well. I think both of the Washington guys, Dotson with an offer, and I think that's the frustrating thing about that player. He's a deep ball guy, and they sometimes just don't throw to him. Marquise Brown didn't do much last week. 4 targets, 1 reception, so scary, a little scary.
Yep, it is a little scary. Kyler's but Kyler's back. This is his second week back. He might be targeting Marquis more this week. You got to give him a week to get kind of back acclimated to the game, get acclimated back with Rondell Moore and Marquis Brown. But we'll see. I mean, he went a lot to Trey McBride last week. I think Houston can keep up with Trey McBride. I think they actually shut him down a little bit this week, so it might actually be the wide receivers that actually get more run from Kyler in this one. But yeah, I like there's some decent plays in this. I like the Green Bay receivers this week, so I'll have ownership in Dobbs and wherever Watson is.
I don't know if I'm going to join you on the Green Bay receivers, but I might regret it. I'm not going to lie. I could regret that significantly. Let me look down here. Yeah, I don't want any Pittsburgh guys. Noah Brown got that Q tag. Noah Brown might not play. He hasn't practiced either. And with him and Collins kind of banged around, I mean, it might be Tank Dell all in week. We'll see.
Yep.
Scrolling down, I did find a couple of cheapies that I think are viable. So it's funny. I'm not really seeing like a ton of wide receivers that I want even in my player pool. But some cheapies I'm going to say for me that were viable, and you tell me who you like in the lower cost zone. But I think Quentin Johnston is okay here at 4,200. He's out there, going to be playing a lot. I like that Keenan Allen got that Q tag, which maybe pushes a couple more targets to Johnston. Maybe Jalen Guyton, same vein, maybe better than Quentin Johnston. Might be Guyton for 3,200. That might work here. And then there's one more name that was popping for me. Rondell Moore, 8 targets last week.
Yeah, he's the guy that I'm kind of like 3K range, click. You know what I mean? It's just
That's that
Makes
first
sense.
guy that the eye. Although I think the other his teammate
Michael,
Wilson, right,
yes, Wilson.
is also good. You know,
Yep.
Wilson actually was okay last week, and he might be even the better play. I'm not sure, but they're both really inexpensive. 6 targets for Wilson, 8 targets for Rondell Moore last week. I think either one of these guys is a perfectly acceptable punt.
For sure. I agree.
All right, let's do this, Burns. As you know, we're coming to the end of our time here. Give me a couple of defenses that you're targeting. I always like to talk to you about the defense position and who's popping in the Shark Lab playbook.
So basically, so let me just pull up the defenses so I have them here. The Dolphins, obviously, Aiden O'Connell going in there. He's a
Ayo
rookie.
Sizzles. That's not obvious, but yeah, I like it.
Uh, he's a guy, you know, they're middling salary at 3,200. I could see it. Also, I mean, you might be able to fire up the Commanders this week with the Giants coming
Hell
into
yeah, you
town.
fire them up.
So, I mean, those guys, DeVito and co. are like, oh my gosh, it's brutal. I watched them play Dallas, and it's just brutal to watch. I'm so sad about them, but yeah. So those
If
are two.
Burns can't see the screencast, guys, just so you know, but I have Tommy DeVito plastered all over the background here, and it's not the Giants quarterback, it's the Joe Pesci character from Goodfellas, Tommy DeVito. And then there's some pictures of the actual guy, Tommy DeVito, who Joe Pesci was playing in Goodfellas. That is what's happening in the background, and you have no idea. That's why you have that serious delivery. All right, I lost my train. Sorry. What was I? What were
Yeah.
you?
So those are a couple of the defenses that I'm more looking at. I think as the week progresses, I'll have more tomorrow in the tournament tactics for sure.
Yeah, I like it. Both the defenses you mentioned, yeah, really good. I think DraftKings unfortunately priced the defenses really well, so I didn't find a whole lot of like sub 3K defenses. So I want you to think of one and save it for tournament tactics tomorrow, guys. If you enjoy the breakdown, of course, let us know who you are playing. Who's your QB wide receiver stack for the Millie Maker? What, are you getting silly for the Millie this week? Let us know in the comments. Of course, hit that like, subscribe, notification bell, all that good stuff. If you want to get Burns' book, Winning the $1 Million Game, Secrets of the DraftKings Millie Maker, it is available on Amazon and at your local bookseller or wherever you want to go. But you can get the link to go to Amazon for that book in the description of this video. And of course, you are not signed up for DFS Army, link as well. Come get signed up, do the free month offer, do something, get in here, check out the Sim Boost. We're putting it across all the sports now. So that's been, in DFS Army, what are we doing? We're innovating all the time. We're developing. We don't sit back. This is a tough industry, and we can't sit back with 2018 technology and expect to be competitive. We have to keep innovating. That's what we do. It is nonstop here. We're always talking. We're always strategizing in the background. You should have seen how much strategy and work went into figuring out NHL stacking. Not fun. But all of that stuff is constantly going on here. We're always improving the tools and everything. So make sure you get signed up, check us out, and start to just kick some ass and play like a pro in DFS. We will see you guys on Tournament Tactics. Good luck this week, everyone.